Chase at the 40. Look at that move. Look at Chase go. Oh, my goodness. What a gear.
He comes down to this in his car end zone. Intercepted.
McPherson. And Cincinnati is heading to the Super Bowl.
Toss here. Mixon's going to throw. Open man caught. Higgins touchdown.
Drives touchdown. Joe Burrow has his first rushing touchdown of the season.
Hooday, Bengal fans. He is Maan. I am Jake. This is the Bengals Pulse, the heartbeat of our Cincinnati Bengals. Maan, episode 74. 74 is here. We are almost at episode 75, which is obviously closer and closer to 100. It's unbelievable to think about how far we've come. And Bengal Pulse fans, we have some exciting things coming down the road. I cannot wait for you guys to see what the future of the Bengals Pulse is going to look like. It's going to be awesome. Mom, we have a game to review. How awesome is that? We have a Bengal game to talk about, although probably more ugly than good. But we will talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly Bengals Packers this past weekend. But Mon, first of all, how has your week been? Everything going good?
Yeah, it's everything's been solid. It's great to have football back. Yeah, there was a loss this weekend, but it was fun to see the Bengals play. And obviously, I know it's just preseason. I never want them to lose. There was a lot of positives that come out of it, a lot of positives, but there's some troubling issues, trends that we continue to see on that offensive line. And we're going to spend some time talking about it.
All right, well, let's get into the show, Mom. We got a lot to talk about. Before we do, real quick, before we review that game, I do want to talk about some big news going on right now in Bengaldom, and that is the Joe Mixon trial. I don't know if we could call it that, but he was in front of a judge today. The trial itself got pushed back another day tomorrow. So hopefully it will conclude and we'll know where we stand with Joe Mixon. The reason why I bring this up, Mon, is because today we saw Zeke Elliott off the board now. He is signed with the New England Patriots. We see Dalvin Cook now off the board. He signs with the Jets. Is this Joe Mixon situation right now, Mon? Is it getting a little scary where, we don't feel comfortable maybe if something does come down? You said it on last week's show. If something does come down from the NFL, are we going to be covered in the running back position? What do you think?
To be determined right now. Jake, the court event, that's something we knew was going to happen. This isn't new. This is all from the original charge.
Right.
And so that all has to play out. That's still to be determined. I think the Bengals organization, the Bengals management, the Bengals coaching staff knew all about this. I did notice on Twitter, some local radio, local TV in Cincinnati, they're talking about it a lot. And some people are thinking this is a new thing. It's not. Ezekiel Elliott getting almost $6 million a year and Dalvin Cook getting big money. Those guys were never going to be options for the Bengals at that price tag. I think the Bengals will be fine. If Mixon potentially gets a game suspension, we have some very capable backs back there that are going to be able to hold down the fort. But right now, that I don't think we don't know if that's going to happen. So we just have to play it out and just wait and see.
Okay. Well, and I think I would agree with you. I think they are capable. Hopefully this whole Joe Mixon thing works itself out. And again, he has done. We've talked about this on the show plenty of times with a couple issues he's had off the field. He has been an incredible teammate. He's been an incredible leader in the locker room. And he's been a great player for the Bengals, and hopefully, I think we're all hoping that the Joe Mixon situation works itself out, and Joe doesn't miss any time. But let's review this game, Mon. Let's talk about this Bengals-Packers game, a game that really, I mean, it starts out from the word go. The Bengals have one starter playing in this game, and Dax Hill. That is it. That's the end of the list, Mon. One starter, Dax Hill, plays in this game, while the Packers, they're going out trying to get a win. I mean, they are playing their starters. Every single one of them, I think, got some play. A.J. Dillon in the game, obviously Jordan Love. Although he's a younger guy, he's still getting a lot of reps. But we saw a Packers team that came out trying to win this football game. We saw a Bengals team, I think, that are more concerned right now with, let's try to find some depth and some backup pieces to this puzzle of this roster. But the game finishes 36-19. The Bengals defense does give up the most points of the weekend in 36 to the Packers. But again, like I said, I think that's kind of hard to judge that. It is the preseason, and the Bengals played a lot of guys that are probably not going to be making this 53-man roster. Mon, real quick before we get into the stats and stuff, what are give me two takeaways from this game. Give me one positive and one negative before we go into the stats. Let me know, what are your feelings about this football game?
Well, I love the play of our safeties. I thought Dax Hill looked good. He played a handful of snaps. He showed some great range on that pass, going over and tapping that ball away. I honestly don't think Jesse Bates could have done that. Dax Hill was very locked in on that, and he showed his elite athleticism. Jordan Battle looked good playing. He played a handful of snaps out there. Tyson Anderson, obviously. So the play of our safeties really was encouraging. Everybody on Twitter is talking about it. I know it's just one game. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here, but the offensive line play was poor. Jake Browning was pressured 63% of the time that he played. And I'm sorry, you're not setting up your offense to succeed when that happens. I get it as backup play, but we need some of these backups have played multiple years. Sharping, Harmon, they're 30-year pros, 4-year pros. A lot of them, Adeniji, they've started a lot of games. I know I'm just expecting a little bit more from our backups. Hopefully they have a better week 2 in the preseason. Deontay Smith looked good, but I want better play from that offensive line.
I agree. And we'll dive into that in just a minute, because I think that is a key talking point coming away from this football game is the offensive line play. But let's talk about the stats real quick. Trevor Siemian, he goes 15 of 28, 121 yards and an interception. Jake the Snake Browning, who started the game. And again, Jake Browning played the first half. Trevor played the second half. This week, Coach Taylor already said today that they're going to flip-flop it. Trevor's going to play the first half against the Falcons, and Jake the Snake is going to play the second half. So I think that's something, that rotation is something they've had in mind for a while. But Jake the Snake Browning, 10 of 17, 95 yards and a pick. And I will say this about Jake's pick is it really wasn't a bad throw. Probably a ball that should have been caught. And if you remember, Mon, that was really the momentum flip of the game. The Bengals just get a second pick from Tyson Anderson going into half, and Jake throws a catchable ball, and Cedric Jackson, who, again, Mon, just is one of those guys that did not look like he belonged on the field. Hopefully he's got better days to come, but Cedric Jackson kind of goes through his hands. It's picked off, and Green Bay ends up going down and scoring right before half, and it really changed the whole momentum of the game. My point, though, in talking about the way they're rotating these quarterbacks is, let's not get too crazy about Jake starting this game and Jake being the new backup quarterback. But let's talk about these quarterbacks real quick, Mom, because our buddy Eric makes a really good point in asking the question, do we feel confident in these two guys? Do we feel confident? And again, it's a very small sample size, but do we feel confident in Jake Browning and Trevor Siemian going into the season as our backups? Or is our backup not on this roster? What do you think? I mean, do you feel confident in those two guys?
Absolutely. I do.
Okay.
I do. I don't think look, I got to just come out and say it. Those guys were not set up to succeed. That offensive line, the backups that played, you saw Warren Sharp came out with his pressure rates for all the quarterbacks this week that played in the first week of the preseason. Jake Browning was pressured 63% of the time.
Yeah, saw that.
It's just hard to succeed. Yeah. The pass that you're talking about to that wide receiver, yeah, he's a practice squatter at best. That ball was a little high because the quarterback was rushed. And Trevor Siemian was absolutely destroyed multiple times. There was a 15-yard roughing the passer penalty. He was hit multiple other times. I think if those guys play behind the Bengals' first string, I think it'd be a different story. I will say this. The Bengals, I think our starting five are going to be fine. We need 2 or 3 more quality backups. I think there might be a backup offensive lineman that's on another roster right now that could wind up on the Bengals. I think Browning and or Siemian, one of them is going to be our backup. I think it's going to be Trevor Siemian having over 33 NFL starts. The Bengals, when was the last time they had an NFL quarterback backup that's had over 30 starts? They normally go with a guy that Brandon Allen's only had a handful of starts. I think the Bengals are in better shape, and I think they're better with Brandon Allen being on the 49ers roster. I just don't think we don't need to read too much in what happened week 1 with the quarterbacks. I think the offensive line was the reason that whole offense struggled. And
I will say this too. You know, obviously, the quarterback position is something that I is near and dear to my heart. I will say that Trevor Siemian, he just the ball comes out of his hand better. I'll be honest with you. He spins the ball really well, and he's got a better arm than Jake the Snake. I love Jake the Snake. I think he's a very athletic guy. I like his mobility and the things he can do outside the pocket. But Trevor Siemian, he can spin it. I mean, I think he's more of the prototypical quarterback for this offense. So I would agree. I think right now it's Trevor Siemian's job. Let's talk about running the football. Chris Evans, 7 carries for 49 yards. Had a long of 33, Mon. A real good run there. Chase Brown, 8 carries, 12 yards. And then Jake the Snake Browning, 2 carries for 5. Let's talk about this guy who I'm going to just come out and say it. I know it's early to make these kind of crazy comparisons. I don't want to be that guy. But when you were watching Andre, did you get a feeling that you were watching like a Carl Pickens Jr.? I mean, I know they both wear number 80, so it's not that. It's just the way he plays the game. He's a physical guy. He goes up for the ball. He's got good hands. He's very. I want to say he's almost like secretly elusive. You know, he catches the ball. He makes that great run after the catch. He finishes with 4 catches for 50 yards. The long I'm talking about, the 24-yarder, and really was about 3 inches away from a beautiful Carl Pickens-esque touchdown in that back left corner of the end zone. What did you think of Josephus? I mean, did he not – he played well, man. I think the Bengals have really put themselves in a good situation at this receiver position.
Yeah, he looked good. I knew he had good size, good measurables. His draft profile was really impressive. Everybody, the only thing they talked about was coming from the Princeton and the Ivy League. So, but seeing him out on the field, he looked like a grown man. He's a big guy, 6'3", almost 6'4", 210 pounds. He definitely looked the part. I want to be a little cautious here. He looked awesome, but let's see him with elite competition, elite talent. Let's see him another week. Maybe he'll start this week against Jesse Bates in the Atlanta Falcon defense. Let's see how he does. Very promising. He wasn't going to get cut in the first place. The way he plays, he's going to make this active roster and he's going to contribute. And he looked pretty polished for a guy that played in an Ivy League school. Very impressive.
And if you have not watched Ace and Zim's pod with Andre, you've got to. Great show by our guys Ace and Zim having Andre on. I'm going to tell you, Yosivas is. Maan, he's going to get a lot of playing time. I'm telling you right now, he's going to get a lot of playing time in the fall. He is serious. He is a dude. You can see again. When it comes to preseason, you can see you can't get a lot out of it, obviously, but you can see when a guy like Andre goes out there and plays, really looks like the best player on the field, and that's what dudes are supposed to look like, right? In the preseason, when they're out on the field, they are guys that you're like in awe. Oh man, okay, this guy is a dude. Maybe he's playing against a second string corner, but let's not forget the Green Bay Packers had a lot of starters out there to start this football game, and Andre looked the part. He looked like he could play the part. Chase Brown, 3 catches, 33 yards out of the backfield. He had a real nice catch at 21 yards. Maan had some yak after that. Let's talk about this guy Tanner Hudson, right? He gets hurt. He goes out with a concussion, which, by the way, him and Joe Bacci day-to-day still under concussion protocol. But let's talk about Tanner Hudson, man. He looks like that tight end / split end, the guy that is tall, lengthy, can maybe play inline and block inline, and maybe you can spread him out and he can make some plays and create some mismatch opportunities for the Bengals. What do you think of Tanner Hudson?
He's been impressive in camp. I thought he looked good. I tweeted this and I sent it in our little text group. I hate it when these guys hurdle defenders. It looks wow. Everybody at my house is like, wow, look at that. That's so impressive. And it is. It looks good, but you're susceptible to injury. I just don't do it if it's not necessary. He's got a concussion. Hopefully he gets to come back really soon because he's having a great camp. I think has the inside track to be tight end 3, if not tight end 2.
Yeah, I agree.
So he's just got to stay healthy. He's not the biggest guy in the world. He's about 240 pounds. He has a lot of NFL experience, spent some time with the Buccaneers, has a Super Bowl ring. So he's played in the NFL. We'll see how it shakes out. Concussions can be a little goofy at times. So hopefully he comes back strong.
I don't know, Maan. 6'5", 240. That sounds like a guy that could fit right into this offense. Let's look at the defensive side of the ball. We got to talk about it, Maan. We have to talk about Tycen Anderson making an incredible debut. Obviously, we did not get to see this guy play last year. And man, oh man, I tell you what, I'll be the first one to say we talked about this last week, and I left him out of those 10 DBs. Tycen Anderson is making this roster. He looked good, Maan. He looked the part.
Somebody with those measurables, with that size, speed, and he's young. They only keep 4 safeties. I just don't see how the Bengals. If you're gonna, Mike Thomas is a core special teamer. Stanley Morgan, core special teamer. It's going to be hard to cut those guys, but if you have to make that tough roster decision, you keep the young guy with the measurables of a Tycen Anderson. Maybe the Bengals go 11 DBs instead of 10. But that's another thing we need to talk about, Jake. There's only so many roster spots. Your 5th and 6th wide receivers have to be big-time special team players. Yosivas isn't going anywhere. You saw the Bengals had him on multiple special team snaps against the Packers. You're going to see him more against the Falcons because he has to play special teams. That's what guaranteed Stanley Morgan a roster spot these last 3 years. Same thing with Mike Thomas. I don't know. The Bengals might go 11 DBs to keep Mike Thomas on there because he's so important to Darren Simmons. Tycen Anderson is not going anywhere. he reminds me of Kyle Hamilton. He's not as tall, but listen, he's just as athletic. I think he ran a 4.40 coming into the draft last year. That's unbelievable at that size. He looked impressive, and to me, the second interception was more impressive than the pick six. He went in there and he took the ball out of the hands of a 250-pound tight end. Just ripped it right out of his hands. That was great to see.
Well, I'm with you. Andre Yosivas and Charlie Jones, they're not going anywhere. Those two guys aren't going anywhere. We talked about last week. Those five guys, there's five receivers on this roster. There's five receivers on this roster already, hands down. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. Again, we kind of talked about who the odd man out is, and we'll take a look at that when we get closer to this when they start making those roster cuts. But going to be very interesting to see. Let's also talk about, because my guy Jordan Battle, I thought he looked the part as well. He came downhill very much like a young Von Bell, came downhill, and he was lighting guys up, Mon. I love this guy. He came down. He almost made a big play on special teams on a kickoff, missed the tackle, but, I mean, he was down there before the ball carrier got to the 15-yard line. This guy is going to be a serious player. He's still my favorite pick of this draft. He finished with I think he had 3 tackles, but he did have a tackle for loss. He had a pass defense. This is a guy, too. We're talking about these safeties here, these young athletic safeties. I don't know, man. I think this spot that we were all very nervous about is now starting to shape up to be possibly a very strong position group. We did not see Nick Scott play. We did see some of the other guys. Our guy, Alan George, a big one of our favorite guys and a big friend of the podcast. He's a leading tackler. He actually finished with 5 tackles. Him and Tuafeli both with 5 tackles. Alan George with 4 solos. And I'm going to be honest with you, that pass interference play against him was terrible. That was a terrible call. Really, Alan George, again, another guy that we're talking about here, Mon, these young, versatile, athletic DBs. Alan George, there's no way this guy doesn't make the roster. I mean, he looked the part. It's going to be very interesting to see. I'll tell you who didn't look the part, and that's Sidney Jones. Sidney Jones did not look the part. And again, it's a very small sample size, but when you are a guy like Sidney Jones that's been a veteran in this league and you're going out there, and again, I know the first touchdown against him was against a starter, but he struggled against the backups, Mom. And maybe it's just him getting his footing with this football team. But again, a guy that you could just tell doesn't really look the part. Maybe doesn't fit this Bengals defensive scheme. I don't know. But what do you think about Sidney Jones's performance?
They look poor. Going back to Alan George, I wish they would have shown the replay. It looked like a clean play to me.
It was.
It's a preseason telecast, so I guess they're limited on replay capabilities. I think the Bengals are going to be very, very young in the defensive backfield because I don't see Sidney Jones making the team personally. You're going to have the rookies, obviously. Battle's going to make the team. DJ Turner's going to make the team. I think Ivy makes the team. And Alan George, I mean, he's gonna have to show a little bit more this preseason. I'm rooting for him. I hope he makes it. He made it last year. But Sidney Jones has not had a good camp from what I've read from multiple of the beat writers and what they've written. He struggled. He is the vet. He is the Eli Apple to this defense this year. And I know Bengals management, the Bengals coaches are probably thinking, do we want to be this young at cornerback? Do we need to bring in another vet? Again, we need to watch what the final roster, cut down come last preseason game. If there's any vets that are cut, anybody that, the Bengals could put in a waiver claim to get that veteran presence in the defensive backfield. But we know who our starters are. We're very comfortable there. We're going to have to find a couple more pieces. About Jordan Battle, I agree. in the pads, he just looked like he belonged out there. He looked the
Yes.
part physically. You can tell he looks like a football player, and he played at a major college with, probably the biggest coach in all of football. He's ready to play football for the Bengals. Good draft pick. He's going to have a big season for us.
Well, and again, we haven't even talked about DJ Turner or DJ Ivy, right? I mean, both of those guys played really well. Turner, I'm going to tell you right now, Turner is a future starter in this league. He is a steal in the second round. He really is, Mon. I'm still going with Jordan Battle as my favorite pick, but getting DJ Turner in the second round is an absolute steal. The guy can flat out run. You saw him lose ground. You saw how quickly he gained ground to make that pass break up. This guy can play, man. He is fast and he's smart. Again, we talk about Sidney Jones maybe having issues not getting his head around on time. We didn't see that with DJ Turner. DJ Turner got in position to make a play and got his head around. And those kind of things, getting in phase for a corner, meaning getting hip to hip and getting your head around, that's really hard to do at any level. But you saw DJ Turner do it at the highest level. I like this kid a lot, man.
I do too. And I want to add one other thing. Eric is talking about Jalen Davis in our chat here. He brought up something I heard on one of the podcasts the other day. We're talking about Alan George. Alan George played in the slot a lot the other night also, because the Bengals are trying to see what he can do, because Jalen Davis is only a slot corner. The Bengals love him, but they want a little bit more versatility. If Alan George could do that, that might help his chances of potentially making the roster. Look, our DBs, DJ Turner, some had him going in the first round. Great athlete, played at a major college. Jake, the only thing that really concerns me is teams know the Bengals have young safeties that are trying to figure out, the chemistry, the communication between, Nick Scott and Dax Hill. They know that Cheeto is going to be on a pitch count. DJ Turner is going to play. The Browns, the Ravens, they're going to attack these guys. They're going to attack. I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, it's going to happen. Lou Anarumo, Zach Taylor, they have to protect them. We need to get more out of our defensive ends. We have to get more pressure from our three technique. We have to get Miles Murphy. We need to get these guys home to, put some pressure on these quarterbacks to give our DBs a break, because it's going to take them 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games to get, acclimated. Look at Cam Taylor-Britt. He had some struggles early on last year. Man, by week 12, week 13, he's one of the best corners in the AFC. He played really well. I just want to see that continual growth from DJ Turner, Jordan Battle, Alan George, if he makes the team. That's what we need. We need this complementary football from our defense. We need this defensive line to help our DBs out.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Real quick, Money Mac, the other starter that played, I guess you could call it. I mean, he just, he just looked the part. He's a dude. I mean, Evan McPherson looks like he has not missed a beat. He went 4 for 4, had a long of 51. Brad Robbins, the talk of camp, right? The punting, the leg. Are we going to call this guy the leg? 5 punts, averaged about 45 yards a punt. Had one inside the 20, had one touchback. But had a long as 65 yards, Mon, and that was a boomer. Brad Robbins, again, a guy I think it's his position to lose, right? I mean, Brad Robbins is going to be the punter on this football team, and I love Drew Chrisman, but I don't see that happening. Hopefully, maybe Drew Chrisman makes the practice squad. So, Mon, tell me. I want to hear from you. I want to hear offensively and defensively. Who did you feel was underperforming on offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball? Give me one guy on both sides of the ball. Underperformance, offense, defense.
Yeah, I'm not trying to overreact. It's only one preseason game, and people might think I'm piling on here, and I'm not trying to pile on. I'm expecting a little bit more from Jackson Carman. Okay, he had some good snaps, especially in the run game in the first half. But when they brought him in the fourth quarter, you're a second round pick of the Cincinnati Bengals, your third year in the league. You're playing against players that are going to be bagging groceries in a couple weeks in the fourth quarter. You're playing against third stringers, undrafted free agents, and you're getting cooked. You're getting lit up. I mean, Paul Daner said it perfectly. He didn't think he seemed interested, like he was angry coming in the fourth quarter. Of
Yeah.
course, we don't know if he was angry. His play has got to be better against subpar competition because this guy played major college ball at Clemson, and he's elite. He has very good athleticism. I don't know what happened, but he just has to do better against these subpar players. He's not playing against elite prospects in the NFL. I mean, some of these guys might make the NFL. I'm not saying they won't. There's some people that stick up for him on Twitter. It's a makeshift offensive line. They haven't played much together. Well, you could say that about the defensive line they just faced. It's not like they're playing against guys that are a cohesive unit on the defensive line. Some of these guys on Twitter give me a headache, man. It's unbelievable how they come up with some of this stuff. I mean, just look at your eyeballs. He absolutely struggled. On the defensive line, I don't want to bang on the guy. He's our number one draft pick. I guess maybe it's not fair for me to say this. I'm expecting this wow explosion off the ball and destroy the quarterback. And maybe that's not fair. Maybe that's not fair. I still think he's going to be a great pro. I was expecting to see a little bit more. Maybe that's more on me, but I think Miles Murphy is going to be a good player. Just reading some of the beat reporters, Paul Daner, Jay Morrison, he's had an underwhelming camp. Not just those two, multiple Charlie Goldsmith. He's learning the game. He's trying to figure out. This isn't college; it's the pros. Just want to see a little bit more from him. And those are the two.
And I'll be honest with you, man. I would agree. I think those would be my two picks. Jackson Carman again. I think he acted more like a pro when he was interviewed. I don't know if you saw his interview in the locker room or not. I feel like he handled the situation well. He did talk about some communication issues. Obviously, we've all seen the play. That first play from the line of scrimmage where the entire offensive line gets in their pass set, and Jackson Carman is literally standing still in his stance, looking forward as two Green Bay Packers run by and try to destroy Jake the Snake. So I'll tell you, the Miles Murphy thing, it bothered me as well. I think we have to take it into context that this is his first NFL game, right? And the speed is a lot different at this level. But I also think our football team used the number one pick on you. And I think I don't think there's a lot of room to be underperforming. The Bengals have very high expectations for this kid. Again, we passed up some good players to take Miles Murphy. So for me, I think Miles Murphy has to be better. I think he has to be better, and I think we have to have high expectations for him. And hopefully we see that this week against the Falcons. The Jackson Carman thing, I don't even know what to say. I don't know if this guy makes this roster, Maan. I'll be honest with you. And if he doesn't, it's going to be a bad look. It's going to be a really bad look on the Bengals if Jackson Carman cannot make this 53-man roster, because we need him for depth, Maan.
Let me stick up for him a little bit here. I know Bengal fans have been disappointed. The guy started for 2 years, maybe 3 years at Clemson, protecting Trevor Lawrence, playing left tackle. Keep the guy at left tackle. He's not going to start. Let him play. I think his best football as a Bengal was left tackle last year in the playoffs, and leading up when Jonah was injured. I thought he did really well. Keep him there. Let the guy focus on one job on that offensive line, the one he played in college. Maybe it'll click for him. Jake, we need to find 3 backups. What happened to this team last year? What happened to them in the Super Bowl? Our backup offensive linemen simply couldn't get the job done.
Yeah.
You may not like hearing this. Adeniji played a good game the other day.
He didn't play bad. You know who looked good is Cody Ford. Cody Ford looked good, Mon. He is going to make this roster, and I don't think there was any doubt that he wasn't going to make this roster. But Cody Ford looked very good.
The person that looked the best to me, he played every snap, was Deontay Smith. Deontay Smith played the most snaps of, not every snap, he played the most snaps of every offensive lineman. And I think he's our official swing tackle. And let me, Bengal Pulse fans, I've been the number one critic of Jonah Williams. Jonah Williams is our right tackle. I hope he becomes a Pro Bowler, and I'll gladly admit I was wrong. All right, he's solidified. He's going to be there. You can tell who the Bengals really don't want to play a line and get hurt. He wasn't even dressed. He was giving out water to the offensive lineman.
Yeah.
So Jonah Williams is going to be the right tackle. Our starting 5 looked good on paper. Let's keep those guys healthy. Sharping played a lot of center. Trey Hill played some center also. I don't know what's going to happen there. Everybody's been talking up this rookie Jack Kirkland from Washington. Guys, he looked like an undrafted free agent.
He did not look good. He did not.
The best thing for him, the best thing for him, put him on the practice squad. Let this guy develop. He's got a lot of potential. All these people saying, "Oh, he's going to make the roster." That's not happening. Ben Brown played. Nate Gillum got some good reviews from Pro Football Focus, which was really impressive. I don't know, maybe another year on the practice squad for him. We need to get 3 guys that are going to be really solid backups. And I think Adeniji is going to be one personally. I think Deontay Smith is going to be one. Sharping's going to be one. And there's going to be a 4th one. I think they keep 9 offensive linemen. That 4th one could be on another roster, or it could be Jackson Carman.
Yeah, it could be. It's going to be very interesting to see. And our buddy Eric made a really good point in saying that Jonah Williams not dressing for this game he's the starting right tackle. I don't think there's any doubt about that now. And Mon, isn't it just crazy to think that this Bengals team set like 20-something players the other night? I mean, not only did they sit 20-something players, but when you go down the list of the players that did not play in this football game, I know we sound like homers when we talk about it, but this is the best Bengals roster that I can remember. We are loaded, Mon. We are loaded. Almost at every position, we are loaded. And if this safety position ends up being as good as I think it can be, there's not a lot of holes in this roster, Mon. There's really not.
Our buddy Jeff Hobson, one of his recent articles, he was breaking down his 53 after the preseason game. He said it. He said there's over 60, 62 players on this roster that the Bengals feel can make the final 53. So there's going to be some really, really good football players that don't make this roster that other teams are going to pluck away. I'll come out and say it. I bet you there's 4 or 5 Bengals that are claimed by other teams after final cuts. And that's a good look for the Cincinnati Bengals because it shows you they have one hell of an NFL roster. You wait and see. There's going to be 4 or 5 Bengals claimed by other teams after final roster cuts.
Real quick, I want to go all the way back to Tyson Anderson, and I just want to throw this out here. You know I'm a PFF guy. Tyson Anderson, and again, it's just a preseason, but just hear me out. PFF graded him the number 1 defensive grade for week 1 at a 97.3. PFF also graded him the number 1 coverage grade at a 97.1.
That's awesome.
Welcome to Bengaldom, Tyson Anderson. It is good to have you, bud. It is good to have you, Tyson.
Jake, do you have any other PFF scores there for the offensive line? I was trying to research it. They had some.
You want me to guess? I can guess what they were.
Deontay Smith was good. Some of the Bengal players had good ones, but like Carman, Kirkland, really poor grades. I know There's other Bengal Twitter guys have a lot of followings that are doing their own.
Eric's calling them the Jackson 2. Jackson Carmen and Jackson Kirkland.
Yeah, yeah.
The Jackson 2. I
That's
like
good,
it.
Eric. Eric's our buddy. He's in the background helping us out. We
I think yes, we are excited to add him to the Bengal Pulse family. But I love that the Jackson 2. It's going to be very. I don't know. This is just going to be a crazy roster battle, right? And speaking of battle, again, my guy Jordan Battle comes out this week and says the Bengals are talking about 20-0, Maan. 20-0. I mean, I love the kid. I love him. Why not? No. We don't have to tone that down. Listen. Confidence is the best thing you can have as a football team. And this football team has a lot of confidence, and they should. This roster is incredible, Maan. From top to bottom, it is incredible. Let's talk about real quick, because the other big news, Maan, of this football game, really, it almost broke the internet. It kind of outshined even the kickoff, and that's Joe Burrow run around pregame, Maan, doing sprints, throwing dimes. I mean, the guy is just incredible. Joe Burrow, Maan, is close to coming back. Do you let him take a snap during preseason?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not, right?
No way.
No way. That would be crazy. I think Bengaldom would just lose their mind if he goes out and takes a snap. But obviously, Joe Burrow is saying, listen, Jamar, I love you. You're my best friend. But I'll be playing week 1. You don't have to worry about that. Joe Burrow looking good. Again, just another quick one real quick. Obviously, Travion Williams, Coach Taylor said he is still day-to-day with his lower leg injury. So you have Hudson with in concussion protocol still. You have Bocce in concussion protocol. You have Travion Williams still a little nagged from that lower leg injury, Mom. But before we get out of here, we got Bengals Falcons this Friday, 7:30 in Atlanta. Obviously, I'm not a Cincinnati Bearcat fan, but a lot of Bengal fans probably are. Desmond Ridder against the Bengals is kind of an interesting matchup. Obviously, you have the guy that I wanted in Bijan Robinson. Be interesting to watch him play. And some of these other young Atlanta Falcons. Jetsy Bates, not sure if he'll get any run against the Bengals or not, but let's flip it to the Bengals side of the football. Do you think there will be any starters that did not play last Friday that play this Friday?
I doubt it. I don't see it. I really don't. I don't think Zach Taylor's going to do it. What I do want to see, Jake, I'm going to just harp back on the Packer game real quick. The Bengals gave up a lot of explosive plays, a lot of communication breakdown. I think Lou Anarumo, Zach Taylor did mention that 80-yard touchdown run, that guy wasn't even touched. And
that was bad, Mom.
That was horrible.
That was bad.
Backups playing backups. You've got to do a better job. I just want to see our backup linebackers. I want to see these guys just perform better.
Right. I think I don't want to interrupt you, but I was really disappointed. I'm glad you brought that up. I was really disappointed the way the linebackers played. Right. I mean,
they did.
I mean, obviously the two studs didn't dress out. Akeem dressed out. I think he maybe played the first series. I don't even remember seeing him in there, but I think he was in the first series. But, Marcus Bailey played quite a bit the first half. Shaka Hayward looked like he might be a football player. He's definitely going to be a practice squad guy. I think he makes this team on the practice squad. But, man, I was really disappointed in the way these backup linebackers played Friday, Mon. I think that was probably the most disappointing thing for the entire night. Was just the way these guys played. They didn't look very good.
No, they didn't. Like I was saying, they took bad angles. I just want to see better play from them. I want to see, some of the angles they took just were terrible. And some of the cornerbacks, DJ Ivy did look good, but he had a couple just indecisive plays and run support. You just want to see them come in and do a better job. I need to see this offensive line. We only had one player that was a rookie that played on that offensive line. That was Kirkland. Ben Brown was hurt last year. He played a lot of snaps. These guys need to come in the second half against backups and dominate. That's Adeniji. That's Carmen. Guys that have started multiple games in the NFL. I want to see that. I expect the Bengals to play really well on the road. I expect Simeon to play better with the better players on the offensive line in the first half. And then we're going to see Jake Browning play with these backups, the third stringers in the second half. But I think the Bengals will play a lot better, and I expect them to come out and I'll call it. I think they're going to win. I think they're going to win. And I want to see Yoshivas. I want to see Charlie Jones on punt return. I'd like to see, our special teams, maybe kick return, punt return, come out and maybe bust one 50, 60 yards. When was the last time that's happened? I know
They had. I'll tell you, they had Josephus returning kicks today. They had him returning kicks, so maybe we might see him back there returning on kickoff return. Will be interesting to see. I'm with you. I just want to see better play. I'll tell you, the one guy we didn't mention, I mentioned him as being tied for the lead in tackles with our guy Alan George, but Jay Tuafeli, he played really well, Mon. He is trying to make this roster, and I would be shocked if Jay Tuafeli is not on this roster.
Yeah, he played really good. He I think Lou Anarumo mentioned today that he's a gamer. He turns it on when the game lights come on, because apparently, I guess he insinuated he doesn't play that hard in practice or practice that hard. But every time he's in there, he makes a play. I just don't see how he can't make the roster. Him platooning with Zach Carter. Zach Carter played a handful of snaps the other night. Of course, two pals safe, Reader safe. The Bengals could go 11 on that defensive line, but they have a lot of talent, a lot of money tied into that defensive line. We've got to have more than 30 sacks. They're going to be the key to this defense. They have to help this defensive backfield early on in the season. It's going to be essential for the Cincinnati Bengals to get where they want to be at the end of the year.
Agreed. Okay, so we have Bengals, Falcons this Friday, 7:30 in Atlanta. Make sure you guys tune in. We will be back here on the Bengals Pulse to review that game as well, and hopefully we'll be talking a little bit about maybe a Joe Burrow extension, maybe a T. Higgins extension coming up here in the next week. But as always, guys, if you like this podcast, make sure you like and share and subscribe to this podcast. Make sure you check us out on all the awesome podcast platforms, Stitcher, Spotify, and Apple. Make sure that you follow Maan at the Fire Maan. Make sure you follow me at Coach Jake Owens 9. Make sure you follow the Bengals Pulse at the Bengals_Pulse 9. And on Instagram, the same without the @ Bengals_Pulse 9. As always, guys, if you like this podcast, make sure you give Maan and I that 5-star review. We would very much appreciate it. And as always, make sure you check out all the awesome podcasts right here on the Wincinnati Podcast Network. Maan, before we go, I want to give our buddy Eric a big shout out. Bengal Pulse listeners, he is going to be joining the Bengals Pulse as our producer behind the scenes. So Eric, welcome to the Bengals Pulse. We are excited to have you. A lot of awesome things coming down the road for this podcast. Make sure you tune in. Once the season starts, we will be on here 2 days a week. We will get you our schedule as it comes. As always, guys, he is Maan. I am Jake. This is the Bengals Pulse. Hoo day, Bengal fans. We will see you next week.